stream happiness class where I talk about personal and global issues. Everything is related to happiness. And this week, the first half of the show is going to be about government, how we can have a better world. I think the title I put was how to deal with corruption, but I wanted to give the more positive side of it, like why are we dealing with corruption so we can have a better world. Okay, second half is going to be about, oh sorry, technical problem, 1 second, let's make that silent. So you're not going to get much of an intro there, but second half, ask anything you want. There's my uncle Asan. Thank you for turning up. All the things we talk about are from ancient religions, science, and logic. And do press the like like on the bottom if you like the stuff. What were you going to say? Anything?
Yeah, I was going to say for the listeners, my first name is not Uncle, by the way.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
I know a great joke about that, but maybe another time.
Maybe another time. All right. Okay. So, first thing I want to talk about when we're talking about how to have a better government, how do we change it? So, I'd like to put it in the form of a question. Why do we always have corrupt leaders? And what is the antidote? And a short answer would be, let me see if I can get the spacing there. Copy and paste. Cool. Okay, so corrupt leaders take advantage of corruption amongst us to keep control. While we have no principles and nothing unites us, they know we have no strength and they can do whatever they want. That's a short answer, but let me do a bit of a longer answer. Wherever I've worked, it's rare for me not to see corruption. It is not just our leaders that are corrupt. We have less power and we have less power and we are not on the news. So our corruption is smaller and less visible. It is our corruption that makes our leaders' corruption possible. They rely on us not being united enough to find good leaders and agree to all vote for them. The reason that does not happen today is because we are too selfish to have functioning communities where people can work together for long enough for anything serious to be achieved. Sure, we can protest for a day, but if we're honest, that's just an excuse for a party to feel good about ourselves. Selfishness is a form of corruption. Corruption also grows when we are not clear on what is right and wrong. We only like to point fingers, but not thumbs, as it were, pointing at ourselves. Thumbs that point at us as the root of the problem. Society is a pyramid of power which depends on us, our local leaders, and others who support those at the top. But on the positive side, but if we were to become just a little better, we could quickly build paradise on earth. When I watch YouTube video travel vlogs, video logs, the happiest places are the ones with the friendliest people, people who don't think that everyone's a stranger. So they smile and they say hello to everyone they pass by. Western materialists have no idea how much happiness togetherness brings, even though loneliness is the biggest killer in Western societies, like here in London. Loneliness kills because of its side effects. All the small things that build up to the big things like depression, stress, feeling the whole world is a competition and against you. So improve yourself and the world will get better. For that, you have to be incredibly honest with yourself. Don't be quick to argue, but try to learn more and be ready to be wrong because we must be very wrong if society and so our leaders are this bad. That's my little speech done. Any thoughts?
Yes, a few thoughts. First of all, if each individual does things good, does that necessarily mean that the world will become better? Because unfortunately, you don't get people who do good all the time. And so there are some people who don't do good at all. So it's in the nature. And I think I know we don't want to discuss Islam as directly as such, but the verse that quotes about the coming of that Allah is going to put a vicegerent on the earth, a Khalifa on the earth, in reference to Adam the prophet. This is what Satan said. I am better than he, and so he will always be there. So Allah will put good people on, but the Satan within us will make us evil. In fact, Satan is something that is within us. That's why the Holy Prophet said that when he was asked, "Is there an Iblis in you, or is there Satan within you?" and he said, "I have, but mine has become a Muslim," meaning
Yeah.
he has overpowered his evil inclinations within himself, which God has implanted in each one of us, and converted that to goodness. So when you become to that stage, you become angelic, and that's what your utopian world wants, doesn't it? That you want people to do good, but then we get people like Hitler, and then we get people like
So
Mussolini.
are you saying basically, sure, it's a nice idea that if we work and do good things, that it will work out, but is what I'm asking is
Hmm.
incredibly hard, and we're all like bound to fail in some way. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Uh, what I'm trying to say is that because there's an inherent negativity within ourselves, the beliefs within us, that
The
negativity.
selfish ego,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll put it for
But
the general
that
person.
selfish
Yeah.
ego is necessary because the famous phrase that you learn from your mistakes, right?
Hmm.
Unless you make mistakes, you don't know what the goodness of that aspect is. So you
Yeah.
have to experience badness, in quotation marks,
Yeah.
in order to improve yourself, so that you don't do that anymore. Because badness will prove to you that there is a better side to things, and badness
So
doesn't
I'm
bring
going to
goodness.
say two things because I think you
Mm,
brought up two really important points. One, the second point you just made, which is that we're bound to fall down and we have to get up, and that's absolutely beautiful. Like if you were Superman and you couldn't make mistakes,
mm,
there's no such great achievement when you do get to better yourself, like to to keep standing up after you failed. God loves that, right?
mm.
So without
Yes,
referring to different
absolutely.
particular religion,
Yeah.
God loves that. God
And,
honors that.
you as a person
Yeah.
love it as well.
Yes.
When you do something good, when you could have done something bad,
Yeah.
when you give to charity, when you could have used that money for your own good, to do something, go on a holiday or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or buy something, that pleases you, and but you've given it to charity, you feel good. So it's an inherent quality for there to be that you can't have a utopian world
Right. Yes. So
because
we
you're
can't have
pointless.
it cheap. There's always going to be a problem. That's true. And so we love achievement, and the idea of achievement is that we fail so many times that if it feels so great when we do achieve something.
Mm,
But the other thing is, even though you don't create a utopian world, and I'm so glad you brought that up. When you do good things, you first of all value yourself, and when you don't do good things as an individual, just forget what the rest of the world is doing. People tend to get depressed
mm,
because they have a conscience, and this a conscience is an idea that's not just a religious idea. Freud has been talking about, so many psychologists have been talking about this strange little thing that psychologists describe as personalities, right? They seem to be separate from our own beings. They seem to tell us off when we want to do something
mm.
naughty and we want to get away with it, and the conscience still tells us off. And this has been known by psychologists for a very long time.
Eh,
So
I was
so
just
we get happy when we do good things, in spite of whether we're successful or not. We like ourselves. And yes, so what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, is that what distinguishes us from the animal kingdom? Because in the animal kingdom, they do things out of requirement for their needs, right?
Yeah.
Whereas we determine whether it's right or wrong, and that is the difference between humans. When a lion attacks an impala's baby, a Bambi, let's say, right? It won't think, what will the mother think? How should the mother would be? It looks at it as food and just attacks it to fulfill its needs. A human being doesn't do that. He looks at the repercussions of what he's about to be done or what he's about to do. So to achieve that happiness, man needs that that desire in him to contemplate and decide what's good and what's bad.
Yeah, and that's an interesting reflection on what we as human beings are. We don't think about that as enough. Like we're not just creatures who are happy to simply survive. We need to do things that are good. And this is something like Viktor Frankl, who's wrote a famous type psychologist who wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He said we need to do meaningful things. And how do you find out what the meaningful thing is? He said, listen to your conscience.
Mm.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we can't be happy just like that. So even if we don't change the world, but we do change the world in many ways. Like if you smile at your neighbors, you made that neighbor a bit happier. You
Absolutely,
made
absolutely.
things happier. So don't. So it's not like you either win completely or
Mm,
not. You know,
mm.
there's so many grades in between. You can make your life better. You can make your family lives better. You can make your community better.
Everything is not just about you, what's good for you. A human mind thinks that it's what good for others that pleases oneself as well.
That is 100% true, and again supported by psychologists.
Mm.
That we're happier when we do things for other people, because there's only so much you can do for yourself anyway. Like
Yeah.
there's only so much food you can stuff in your face and then go, oh, that's what I need. That's a very limited way of looking at happiness. Anyway, so next part, division, a major problem in modern societies and something that corrupt leaders take advantage of. So anyway, put it as a question. How
Mhm.
do we fight back and regain control from our evil government? So I want to give a bit of background. There's so many things you might be aware of as a viewer, but let's talk about we know that our governments are so corrupt that they, start wars around the world and terrible things are happening, and we're tired of it, right? We vote, we had like 1 million people um, go on the anti-Iraq war thing, and it still happened, right? The protest, right? But there's so many terrible things being done against poor people and bankers who, for example, caused the last financial crisis. They didn't pay for it at all. So there's so many problems that you could probably think of that we're not dealing with. And on the other side, we've got like China, which is a sort of a non-democratic country where they have so much oppression of the people that right now, just to thinking about modern problems at the moment, they're locking up their own citizens and they're barely getting enough food. All sorts of crazy problems. So how do we do that? How do we fight back against evil governments who are doing bad things, who are not in our favor? And so a quick answer would be, first of all, protests make the divisions in society grow. And I kind of rewind again, actually. One of the reasons why I picked this question is I got a text message or a WhatsApp message, and it said, you know what? There's these evil energy companies, turn off your power for 10 minutes at 10 o'clock at night or something, and we'll really show them, sort of thing, right? And so that's a kind of protest. And protest is what people think in the modern age is a solution. And I'm going to say how it's not. So back to the short answer. Protests make the divisions in society grow because they are playing the blame game. Unity takes daily small acts of kindness, nothing you can put on Instagram. So the point is, like, these are kind of things that are really difficult for the modern people because they need to show off about every tiny thing, like, oh, I'm eating this, here's a picture of my food, etc., right? So this is the kind of stuff where you've got to realize you cannot show off about it, and there is no finishing line either. It's not like I can stop being good today or something, or tomorrow. You have to just keep going, and only when you have unity can you choose good government. So kind of going back to the unity idea. So but that's not even my speech. Let me start my speech. That was a short version. Let me give the longer one. You don't want the toilet cleaner. Am I on the right bit? This is about, okay, I kind of mix up. There's a merger between what I would say democracy and how to handle division. But anyway, you don't want the toilet cleaner telling the government how to run the economy. So you do not want to control governments. through protests or whatever you want. They are supposed to be experts, the government people, let's say. What you want are good people in power. If they are good, they will have the right policies. If they are bad, they will have all the right policies and not do them. We need a mind shift in how we think change will happen. Screaming that life isn't fair in a protest for a day is not how real change makers work. It's about small and positive actions every day. Only when we have unity will there be any change. So, protesting against another part of society is not going to help. We need the other part on our side. Otherwise, corrupt governments will always play each side against the other. So until you make friends with your neighbor and slowly get to know them and see how important community is, or certainly get them to see how important community is, then you are the problem. Saying your neighbor isn't nice is the easiest way to give up any dream of a better world. So that's my little speech done. Any
Mm.
thoughts?
Well, governments try to do the best they can for their people, but there are different types of governing people, and democracy is one. It's not 100% good. It doesn't work 100%, although America tries to import it by force into other countries and failed miserably. You have China on the other front, as you mentioned, uh, and China produced one of the most horrific incidences, Tiananmen Square. 100,000 people eventually got killed there, and they're still prosecuting. You mentioned that earlier. But they also do a lot of good. I mean, if you look at China, how many countries have they invaded or attacked?
None.
They haven't, right? So what they do is for their people. But America and the West tend to be the warmongers, and yet they are the Democrats. You know, the people who follow democracy. So neither is the solution because they're both extremes without any controls. What you really need is uh, a government or system, because you have to put a system in. You can't have a leader who will listen to every single individual of his country to decide what he's going to do. It just won't work. You need a system. So what the best solution I've seen is a middle road of the two. The one extreme, like you get the socialist or communism, which is totally failure really, and Western, which is causing lots of wars and harm to a lot of people. Uh, in an Islamic system, for example, we have a leadership, and the leadership is elected democratically, and the purpose of that leader is to follow him and to obey him, but he holds counsel to listen to the people, not just to his policymakers, not just his cabinet, not just his close allies, but he listens to the people through there's an institution of consultations called shura, where advice is given, and that Khalifa then makes a decision what his people want. He is a listening ear. Demonstrations themselves can be harmful, and they do not actually achieve anything. A demonstration doesn't necessarily change the view of the leaders. If they have a policy they want to stick on, no demonstration will change that. And you mentioned the Iraq war and 1 million people marching. Did they listen to anyone?
Not
No.
at all. No.
So it doesn't necessarily it doesn't mean that demonstrations will work, because they say, well, in 4 years' time, change us. Don't vote for us. But in 4 years' time, lots of things can have happened, and the evil that are done. Look at the prime minister at the moment. Lies after lies. His cabinet are lying for him as well, and some have lied
Mm.
as well, and yet they're in power. And we just heard the policy they're making about what they're going to do to Rwandans and returning them, and the cost that's going to have on the earth. I mean, and yet people are outraged by these decisions, and yet he's in power
Mm.
on those policies, and those policies aren't good policies. I can tell you that now.
Yeah.
And if anything, it is pandering to those people who don't have tolerance of others. because
Yeah.
they have not been in that situation of being persecuted or in severe poverty where they run from and seek help from others. If people and we're in the month of Ramadan, what does Ramadan teach us? It teaches us to be empathetic to
Hmm.
those people who have to fast every day of their lives, right? So that we become more empathetic to them. So when you are empathetic, you start listening to other people's causes. I think that's something that democracy sometimes doesn't encapsulate.
So I want to say a quick few words. Is I don't think that it's democracy. I'm going to mention this anyway in the next part, but it's not democracy or some other system that is key. It's the people who use it. It's like money. Money is not evil, but it can be used for evil. And I like the thing you mentioned about like the fasting and Ramadan, where communities, the whole community gets together and thinks about poorer people and gives money to poor people and fasts and gets healthy as well. So if you have that mindset, then we can start working toward a better world, because it's us. I love blaming us, not the other people, because the other people, let's say corrupt leaders, are a symptom of our own corruption. um, and if we make ourselves better, we're going to be happier for it. But anyway, um, so next bit, democracy, like I promised. So here we go. And there are a lot of other points I found really agreeable. Like, for example, I don't like to say that our governments are pure evil. They do so many good
No,
things as well.
yeah, that was a big assumption on your part.
Yeah, yeah. I think I do put this material together really quickly, and it's not easy to kind of give 100% balanced view, but that's why discussion is quite good. So anyway, democracy has failed. What is the alternative?
Hmm.
Okay, so that's a question. Doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it 100%. Anyway, so Price's law. So that's a idea about, it's a psychological, society-based law about how societies operate, right? Tells us statistically most useful work is done by minorities. So the majority will necessarily lead you to bad decisions. So democracy will not magically solve our problems. What we want are good and educated leaders, be they kings or chosen by society. So it looks like I'm kind of saying democracy is not even workable, but that's not exactly what I'm saying. So let me get into a bit more detail as
Hmm.
usual. Although there is benefit in always being a student and learning from those around you, making decisions because they are popular can stop you from making the right ones. So I'm not sure if that first sentence makes too much sense. So it's like there's good in listening to people, okay, but don't just listen to people all the time in the sense of being like trying to take the popular decision from the public, right? That's a bad idea, okay, because sometimes the public doesn't want to do the right thing because they don't know necessarily what the right thing is, okay, they're not educated enough. So democracy can cause problems rather than solve them. First, you need good people so that they make good choices. Even if there was a monarchy, there is not, there is, I can't, that is not bad if they were good. Good people make good choices and consult with people about things they don't know. So if there's a king that's in charge, he doesn't know everything, but if he's a good person, he's going to have a good attitude and ask the right people. And that's how governments work anyway. They depend on the civil servants anyway. So they only the only solution is to play the long game and make society better, which is what I keep repeating in this section, which will inevitably fix the disease of corruption, which is why we doubt democracy in the first place. So, your thoughts, Uncle?
I think I touched on the democracy side of things as
Yeah.
opposed to the socialist or the communist aspect. I don't think either of them work, though democracy possibly is the better, but socialism is more humane, that it looks after the people. And if you go to America, for example, you see a lot of poverty. I mean, we see all the grit and glamour of Hollywood and all things and of the rich people on TV. That's your media for you. Uh, but the reality is, I drove from Boston to New York, and along the route, I drove past a ghetto, which would have been at least a mile to 2 miles long, and the depth of it I couldn't tell from my drive. And I don't think I've seen anything worse in my life.
And that's
And
supposedly the richest country in the world.
that's the point I'm trying to make. Exactly. I'm from Africa, and I think the poor in Africa had a better life compared to what I saw in that ghetto. I went to Russia, so communism. I saw people lining up the streets with one item of vegetable or fruit, trying to sell it to survive, right? And that's socialism not working for the people because of the poverty. So, so either of those don't work. But what uh, what I feel is that the powers that are in place, they must always work for the benefit of the people. We see too much of the powers to look after themselves. You see nepotism. You look at the Pakistani elections at the moment. You got one party of family orientated, another party family orientated. The
And you
Bhuttos.
have that even in America.
Well, look
Like
at America. I mean,
you got the Bushes,
the
you know,
Bushes and
and the
the
Clintons.
Kennedys and the
Yeah,
Clintons. You
yeah.
know, and even Trump had, who was he aligned with? You know, he had all
Mm,
his family members doing jobs that they were never trained to do,
yeah.
never had the experience to do, and yet we allowed that to happen. So there's no best solution other than that those in power should not become greedy, and there must be some outlet for there. I think it was I think famously Abraham Lincoln is said
Mm,
to have, he's the most famous to have used it, but many others used it before him. I think Disraeli did it when he was in power. That who coined the phrase "government for the people, by the sorry by the government of the people, by the people, for the people." Do you
right.
see it happen?
Yeah.
You know, it's a great phrase. It's a great morale booster and PR
Yeah, so the question
thing.
is like there's these nice ideas, but how do we make really rich, powerful people who don't have to follow the ideas once they get in power? How do
Hmm.
we get them to do that, right? And so they have to give them an alternative perspective. Why do they search for more and more power? Okay, because they think that's what's going to make them happy. So if you can create a society and the society starts from the bottom and it says, you know what? We're not going to be crazy materialists searching for more and more things. We're not going to be corrupt ourselves, right? You create an environment where an alternative way of finding happiness can be achieved. Like you
Hmm.
demonstrate it. You go and you can see Western lifestyle. People are miserable. Depression is going through the roof. This is statistically true, right? And they've got the stuff. These are rich people who are being really miserable. So pure materialism doesn't work. I'm not saying don't buy things, don't try to make the world better, don't invent things. I'm an inventor. I think that's important. But we have to realize that's not the stuff that makes you happy. The connection, this is what psychologists say, it's the connection between people that makes us happy. Doing things for other people makes us happy. And so that's one idea. And there's another idea. So the one idea that what makes us happy, and if leaders could see that, like doing things for other people makes them happy, that's really important. But another idea is understanding of how society works, and this is really important principle, that if we crush the people on the bottom, they're the people actually keep things going. So when we were clapping for heroes, you know, in the UK we were doing this thing, we were clapping for the dustbin men and all the other people who are keeping society going, the nurses and everything. They are, if without them society collapses. And that's a really important religious principle, that everybody has a function. And so modern capitalistic, and I don't like to use the word capitalistic because I don't think capitalism by itself is wrong. Okay, there's a kind of capitalism I don't want to go into, right, which it's been forbidden for a long time in so many different religions, called usury or
Mm,
interest-based
mm.
systems, right? That ruins capitalism. Okay? Capitalism is a
The
useful
rich
function.
become richer. Rich become richer in that society.
Yes, so that reminds me again another point you put. So when you have no morality, then the rich people, they take their riches and they control government and they make the laws work for them, and so they become increasingly rich, and the poor become increasingly poor because they've got no power.
Mm.
So
A-
morality,
And
yeah,
that's what you saw. That's what I saw in the ghettos. The poor becoming poorer, one extreme to the other.
that's it.
Horrific. Yeah.
Okay, so yep. So I should keep saying, ask questions if you want to. I've got a bunch of questions lined up, but if you don't, feel free. Even if you don't have a question, do join in with your comments. But anyway, here we go. This is the second half, which is ask anything you want. And first question that I see a lot that confuses people: is faith the opposite of science, and therefore a cause for the degeneration of society? So a lot of atheists, especially, make fun, and I think quite rightly, of a lot of religious people who have a faith that's not based particularly on fact, and that is not the idea of faith that I have been taught. So anyway, so faith in Islam, at least, I can't speak for all religions because I don't think, from what I've studied, all religions are very particularly clear about this. Okay, faith in Islam, at least, is doing the right thing based on reasonable evidence. Yes, many religious people are intellectually lazy and ignore science and prefer to blindly follow others. Such people damage society with silly beliefs. So that's my short answer, but here goes a slightly longer one. Science and faith should be part of the same thing: belief in the truth. Faith should be based on evidence. For example, I have faith that I have a brain, even though I haven't seen it. Faith in religion has an extra meaning because faith has an important job. Faith is when you do something good and you do not know when and how you will be paid back for it. Otherwise, people would end up trading their good actions for benefit. So it's like, if you did know exactly, if you do a good deed one day, you get £5 the next day, it would just be an extension of materialism. That's why there's a need for this ambiguity. I can't even say
Ambiguity.
it. That's what.
Ambiguity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so so faith stops good actions from becoming selfish ones. Now, here's the thing that I warned my uncle about before the show. I said this is something that religious people really struggle with. So I'm going to say this. So I blame religious people for the confusion about faith. They like to think they are the chosen ones. So if they do something wrong, God will magically fix it for them. Bad actions, in my opinion, from what I understand, only become right when right ones, bad actions become right ones when you learn from your mistakes. What these religious people are doing, these people who like to have this idea of blind faith,
Mm.
is easier than following real faith based on evidence. When religious people start believing silly things, they push their followers to become atheists, which is exactly what we've seen in the UK. There's next to no Christians left. Why? Because Christianity created atheists all over the country. When religious people start believing in silly things, they push their followers to become atheists. I am part of a religious group that prides itself on being scientific. But when our religious leader makes a scientific error, most people in our religious community, from my experience, do not tell him, but just follow the mistake. This is a common problem in any population. So again, Price's law, something I like to refer to again and again, suggests that most people are wrong most of the time.
Mm.
When there's disagreement, of course, like not when the earth is flat or something, I don't know. Or sorry, if water exists. So things that people disagree with, you'll see most people are wrong most of the time. And actually there's more disagreement than you realize, say running a company. So always be careful not to be part of the majority. Some people say that you should follow all orders so that the community can gain strength to unity. Lots of people doing the wrong thing doesn't make things better. Sometimes you are part of a team but do not have the expertise to know why an instruction is given. In that case, do not join the team if you do not trust the experts in the team. Another argument given to me by a religious person for not following orders I think are not good is there is no perfectly good instruction in an imperfect world. So follow the imperfect, uh, possibly a bit bad instruction. So hopefully that makes sense. So he's saying there's no perfect instruction, just follow the imperfect instruction in this short version. Okay, it is true that it's hard to find an instruction that hasn't got something slightly bad mixed up with it. So you always need to think the if there is an overall, if the good instruction, the good in the instruction clearly outweighs the bad. At the end of the day, your conscience is always judging you, so do what is right according to your understanding if you like yourself to be happy. Long speech there. Any thoughts?
Have you left me room for my thoughts? That's the question.
It's 3 minutes, 4
Three.
minutes. Yeah.
A person can only answer a question that is raised or something that he doesn't understand within the realms of the capacity available. Man has developed both mentally, psychologically, and physically over centuries. The man of 1,000 years ago is not the same man of today, right?
Yeah.
So when people like Galileo produced their theorems, the church ridiculed it completely and called him a madman, right? Because the church could not answer the questions that was being raised because the people of the church did not have the knowledge. They were just people of faith. Now, God has given us the capacity to both evaluate, and we were talking about learning from your mistakes. Mankind is created so that when he makes mistakes, he strives to improve it and get that wrong undone. And that's what makes humans what we are, that we keep progressing and keep improving on what we've got because of this DNA that has been put in us to make mistakes, to learn from them, and to overcome them so that we don't get put in that situation again. Science in reality will prove the existence of God. Now, the most common, for me, the most common statement that will be made by an atheist will be, well, I can't see God, who created God, etc., etc., right, on those lines. In reality, in life, we have only two choices about on this decision. Either it was by design or it was by accident, which is the atheist view, right? By accident. Sorry, just one second. Yeah.
Yeah. Food
Now,
is arriving.
yeah. Ramadan is close. Now, as
Yeah.
far as the atheist is concerned, he cannot comprehend that this was a design. So it is absolutely coincidental. Now, scientists, and there are many scientists who became faith followers because of science. Some scientists have done research into this. Now, imagine if the whole world became about by chance. Okay. Now, in that chance, somewhere back billions and billions and trillions of years ago, two atoms must have got together,
Mm-hmm.
A and B. Correct?
Yeah.
Now, if A and B had not connected,
Hmm.
we would not be where we are today.
Sure. I think just mathematically. Oh,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
on, go on.
So
Just
I'm just going to say,
mathematically, God must
yeah,
exist. We
just to,
and
yeah,
yeah,
just to finish that
yeah,
point,
yeah,
that
yeah.
if A and B had not met, combined, joined, we would not be here today. So what is the probability of A and B joining, let alone everything else that happened after? Because there's lots more probabilities to happen where we are today. Scientists have worked out that that probability is like having a having a multi-sided dice with quotations, all the quotation, and you're rolling it, and it produces the Britannia Encyclopedia,
Yeah.
right? Impossible. or one scientist said, imagine a table and the chair where I'm standing, that all the atoms are moving simultaneously, they're moving, but at one moment they simultaneously move with the same power in the same direction that the table and the chair raise and then drop down again. It can't happen,
Yeah,
right?
I think you made a really important point that atheists make fun of people who have a reasonable belief in God, reasonable based in science. But a lot of people don't realize that actually, logically, God must exist because the probabilities are basically it's impossible for God not to exist because of the complexities of the universe. So that was a really important point. Jazak, thank you for reminding me about that. Okay. So, wrong section. Okay, here we go. Here we go, next bit, which is a bit about different religions. So I always say that all religions are connected. And so let's talk about that a little bit. So let me paste that in the right place. There we go. All right. So if all religions are true, as I always say on this show, they're all connected from this one God who's basically taught all these religions. Why should we not believe the Bible and believe Jesus is God? So a short answer I would give is the Bible of I probably wrote something wrong there. Bible of people. I don't know what that means. Okay. The Bible gives evidence that Jesus didn't die on the cross, basically. I'm trying to get past of that badly worded sentence. From blood gushing out of his body is something that the Bible says itself, which is a sign of a beating heart, even after he supposedly died. So Jesus did not die on the cross and come back to life because he didn't die in the first place. He clearly prophesied that he would not die on the cross. So he was no God because, if you just nothing miraculous happened, there's no reason for us to believe he's a God. So that's a short answer. But again, here comes my long answer. And the reason why I give a short answer is because people might just get lost if I give a long answer straight away. So you can give me some feedback if you want. So anyway, even according to the Bible, Jesus was still alive even after he had supposedly died. Okay, what do I mean by that? That's a really bad sentence. Blood gushed out of his body when he was pierced. So Roman soldier pierced him on the side. Okay, and the fact that blood gushed out was evidence of a beating heart because any doctor will tell you that. Otherwise, it would just seep out. Okay, Jesus himself prayed to be saved from death. So if you believe him to be God, then why wouldn't God listen to himself, sort of thing? The Roman official who tried so hard for Jesus to be set free, Pontius Pilate, okay, was surprised that Jesus died so quickly. So he's an expert. He's been executing people on the cross all the time, right? So he's like, what, already? Jesus said he had yet, this is continuing on a different point, Jesus said that he had yet to see other lost sheep, okay, which is terms for basically Israelite tribes like the one in India. So the tribes spread out all over the place, and he knew that he had to go and find them. Okay, where his tomb still lies. So it shouldn't be a surprise. He actually has a grave, one of a Jewish prophet with a strange imprint in front of it, of feet with holes in it. So in front of this grave that a lot of people visit, that is known as Jesus's grave, there's like a footprint. There's like with holes in it, like the kind of that you'd get from being crucified when you're stuck on the cross. So Jesus prophesied that he would not die and he would show the sign of Jonah. And while Jonah was in the belly of the whale as Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days, he would also be in the belly of the earth, he said, or basically in a cave for 3 days, which is exactly what happened. Jesus' friends gave him well-known medical treatments, not a Jewish custom, as some try to claim. So if you ask a Jewish person, when somebody dies, do you put these certain ointments on them? And it's like, no way. But actually, those ointments were well known for healing people. Okay, so even the shroud of Turin. So I'm just throwing in a whole bunch of things, okay,
Mhm.
that collect together to prove that Jesus definitely didn't die, which Jesus was wrapped in, proves scientifically he was alive. Those who say that the shroud is a fake cannot explain how anyone could have created a photographic negative of Jesus. In short, Jesus didn't die on the cross and come back to life. So he didn't die on the cross, so therefore he didn't come back to life. So he wasn't a god. Jesus himself says he is not a god throughout the Bible. So there is no need to believe Jesus was a god. All that said, the accounts of Jesus' life in the Bible are unreliable, historic. So again, whatever I'm reading is written really poorly. Basically, the Bible is a really unreliable historical document, as nobody knows the eyewitnesses who wrote it. The authors of those accounts of Jesus' life, Matthew, Luke, John, and Mark, are not their real names. Um, those four accounts could have been written by lots of people. Nobody knows. This is common knowledge amongst Christian experts in the Bible. You might ask then, why did I bother even quoting the Bible if it's so unreliable? Partly because Jesus must have existed. He's mentioned in non-Christian documents of his time. But strangely, a good reason to believe in parts of the Bible is that the evidence in the Bible that Jesus was a man, not a god, which is against the narrative of the Bible that it's supposed to teach, according to Christians, shows that it isn't just a made-up story, but a book that once had some truth. So it's a really weird reason to believe in the Bible. It's like it's telling you something that it's not supposed to tell you. So it can't have been completely concocted, because no sane person who wants to tell a story tells the opposite story of this, what they're supposed to tell. I don't know. That was what my reasoning was, to believe in the Bible in some sensible, logical way. But are your thoughts?
Well, uh, I won't cover the grounds that you have because you've covered them well and explain some logic about why he can't be God. But look at it the other way. If you look at the books before Bible, none of them talk about a son of God or a literal son of God, right? And nothing afterwards as well. So why is this? Why should the Bible be believed? Now, Saint Paul says that our faith is in vain if
So just to be clear, there's a Bible which is an Old Testament and New
yeah,
Testament, and you're talking about the Gospels, as it were, or not just the Gospels, but the New Testament, and that says suddenly there's a Son of God, and
yeah,
why wasn't any mention of a Son
yeah,
of God before?
exactly.
Yeah.
So the question that would arise is that if Jesus was to be the only way to God, right? This is what is being claimed that because he's the Son of God. What would happen to all those people who never believed in Jesus? And even today, what would happen to all those people who live in the Aborigines shrublands, in the Amazons, for example, in the Eskimo wilds, the Alaskan wilds, who've never heard of Jesus? What is their source of repentance? If Jesus, this being the Son of God, is the only way, so it has to be a universal message. Now, Jesus, the Christian will say, but Jesus said, only through me can you reach the Father. And hence, he's the Son of God, because this is the words
Hmm.
of Jesus. If that was the case, what did Moses say to his people when he came? Did he not say, only through me will you reach your Father? What about Lot? What about Noah? What about Abraham? What about the prophets who became? Were they not the path to God at that time? So Jesus has said nothing new that was not said before. And if you live in the deserts of Arabia as a Muslim, and you've not come across Christianity, and the only book you've ever read is the Quran, and the Quran says it does not behove God to have a son, and God is one, Qul huwallahu ahad, there's none like
Yeah.
unto him, right? Would God punish you for not believing that Jesus was the Son of God, right? So
Right.
that statement that Jesus is the Son of God is actually illogical. It goes against the grain of our thinking. And in fact, it is defamatory to God Almighty,
Hmm.
right?
And just to give a solution to the problem you pose, basically, like, okay, if say Jesus was God, the Son of God, and you have to believe in Jesus to like that. It's just unfair that if you've never heard of Jesus, then how can you possibly believe in him? So
Yeah,
what is the true solution? Islam says for every people and every time there was a teacher, there was a prophet.
correct, correct.
Okay.
And
And
in fact,
you
the Bible says that because in the I'll quote, give you some quotes. Okay,
sure.
if Jesus is the Son of God, what
Yeah.
about these people in Ephraim?
Yeah.
In Jeremiah 31:20,
Yeah.
uh, it's about Ephraim. He says, is Ephraim my dear son? Is he a pleasant child? Since I spake against him, I do earnestly remember him. I am the father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. And I could quote you several more verses of the Bible where other people were called sons of God. So
Yeah.
Jesus is not unique.
And then the Israelites always call themselves children of God. So what's the problem?
Absolutely, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's where people take things literally, and Islam suffers from this. Other religions suffer from this. When you start taking things literally, you end up in a muddle, really, and you in a pickle, as they say,
Hmm.
and therefore you start making, as you started the conversation with, you start making people disbelievers because you
Yes.
present a God that is against your own logic. And as the Christians will say to you, that God has created us in his own image, we must have a rational mind. And if the rationale is not presented, you will turn away from it.
Yeah. 100%. That's right. Okay. So next question. I think we're in the last question. Uh, and I think we're breaking fast at 55 past. I forgot now already. Was it 55 past?
54 for me. It could be
54.
55 for you.
Yeah, let's go for 54. All right.
Okay.
So, what is the harm? Because I've forgotten myself actually. So, what is the harm in Disney creating LGBT characters? So, just a bit of background. There was kind of a leak of some information there that Disney are planning to at least have 50% of their main characters to be, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transsexual or something, right? Okay. And then my answer is our goal in life, okay, should be to compete in doing good things in all ways, not just focused on one issue. So homosexual behavior has medical issues. It's not like something that's debated, right? Okay. So as we should simply so we should simply educate people as best we can with love, right? So I don't know if that all connects together, right? But it's not like there is one issue that people suffer from. There are millions of issues. So let me read my little speech, right? You might think that without God, we might be rational enough to figure out good from bad. All you have to do is follow the science. Science says homosexuality is bad for your health and is not genetic behavior. But when you deny one truth, that is God, you become emboldened in denying all truths that get in the way of you doing anything you want. So we should educate people on what are the facts and what is good for them with love. And we shouldn't get tied down on this one issue, otherwise it becomes divisive. There are many ways in which society makes their lives difficult. So help society in all ways. That way, people will be more inclined to listen to you on all issues. We should not stop Disney from doing what they think is right. That would only make them victims. So if we forcibly stop them and therefore gain support. Happy societies are made of people who try to do things in service of each other, not focused on issues for dogmatic reasons. So, we got 1 minute. We're fasting, me and my uncle Hassan, and we're going to break it exactly at 54 past, which is in 20 seconds. I'm going to say the prayer aloud, but you can say it in your mind. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma laka samtu wa bika amantu wa la rizqaka aftatu. Oh Allah, Allahumma laka samtu. Oh, I've prayed. Yeah, I've been fasting
For your sake,
for
and
your sake.
I break this fast in your name.
Yeah, in your name, with the food you've given us. So,
Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Hello, man. I'm quite lucky. I've got
I was going to say, what have you got? I got a date.
I've got a date from Yemen, and I've got some holy water from Mecca, Zamzam.
Cool.
Mm.
I want to say this is what I've got. I've got dates from my Jewish neighbor.
Wow.
I like to say that because people think kind of Muslims and Jews are kind of enemies. My best friends were in university were Jewish people
Mm.
because I felt closer to them than even the Muslims based on their faith because they practice their faith more than I felt my Muslim friend did, right? And so there's lots of love and connection between Muslims and Jews, it should be known.
I've never had a
Um,
conflict with another Jew.
Very intelligent people as well.
I can't say the same for a Zionist.
See, that's a different thing, isn't it? There's
It is.
we mix up those kind of things. As far as I can tell, really, Zionism is more of an
It's a
atheist,
political movement.
capitalistic. Yeah,
It's a political movement. It's not a religious movement.
that's right. And
And
so
we have
many,
differences in religion, in politics.
yeah, that's right. And so many Jews are really upset about this whole Zionist movement because it's just about capitalism.
Well, yeah, it's the Zionists who have made it that even if you're Zionist, you are anti-Semitic, which is totally wrong.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that. But as far as Jews are concerned, there have been great pacts between Jews and Muslims even from the time of the Holy Prophet onwards. Often mistakenly, one tribe broke that pact during the time of the Holy Prophet, and that is often used as to present as if Muslims are anti-Jews, but it was only an it was against a particular Jewish tribe who had broken the pact at Medina at the Battle of the Trench. But that could be sent for anyone who broke the pact.
yeah,
Even in today's world, if someone you make a peace pact with and they break that pact, you fight, because if
yeah,
they've broken a pact and a war is to be fought, then you fight the war. It's not
yeah,
because of anything other than that they've broken the pact.
yeah.
So
So
it was,
under the
it was not
leadership.
a pact. Yeah.
Yeah, under the leadership of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he allowed the Jews to live according to their own law, the Christians to live according to their own laws. Like
Absolutely.
he was running the city, and he
Mm.
had like 3 or 4 different laws going on
Yeah.
and they could pick and choose which one they want. So if they were Jewish, they're like, "Hey, I feel like following the Jewish law according to what the Bible says." Yeah, that's great. Do that.
And we
You know.
mustn't forget that the Holy Prophet, when he was persecuted in Mecca, it was the Jewish tribes of Yathrib or Medina who invited him. So
Right.
we owe a great deal to the Jewish people for the safety of the Prophet in
Cool.
his initial days.
So just to finish off
Yeah.
about LGBT characters, you might disagree with me, but I'm
No,
like,
I'm with you.
yeah,
I think our role should be that if someone has certain beliefs or practices, then the only thing we can do is discuss with them and present our views on it. However, Disney is a worldwide production, and that means a lot of children get influenced. It is the duty of those parents who oppose homosexuality or LGBT to make sure they guide their children accordingly.
right.
And leave it at
Like,
that. And we saw that example in Birmingham with the school who was trying to ban a book where the author was, writing about two fathers for a child and things like that. It's for the parents to guide the children that, like everything else. Otherwise, we will have to oppose everything, a lot of things, let alone this issue,
yeah.
hundreds of things. And we can't be opposing everything in life. We accept many of them and tackle them in life as per normal. So that's how
I,
I would deal
I
with it.
was kind of smiling when you said about the Birmingham issue, where there was, protests against a certain, you know, it's in lots of primary schools where
Yeah,
they're trying to talk about, two gay parent dads or whatever, right? And I remember my daughter coming back from one of those classes, and we asked her about it, and she said, "I was just confused." It's like I
yeah.
don't know what they were talking
That's
about.
all it's done, really.
you know so that's one thing, but also, yeah, sure, okay, they've got a lot of power, but like, don't, as you said, uncle, like, don't you as parents, don't you have more power than Disney has, on the screen?
Mm,
You should be able to explain to them
yeah,
if you know what you believe, right? And a lot
yeah.
of people don't know what they believe, so maybe they need to educate themselves about their own beliefs. Why are they against homosexual behavior, for example, you know?
Mm.
And my simple answer is that, first of all, it's medically bad for you, okay, and even psychologically bad for you. So there's more mental health problems within, let's say, gay, lesbian, whatever relationships. But also, besides the medical problems, I can't remember what the other one was. I was just thinking
Well,
about.
tell me the truth. I mean, people could say, well, that's being tarnishing everyone with the same brush with those sort of views. For
Hmm.
me, it's as simple as I don't believe it. I don't instill it in my children, and if I see something that is influencing them, I will tackle that issue with my children
Hmm.
and explain
But
to them. That's it.
well,
That does it for me.
yeah, well, I mean, I'm talking about statistics, right? It's not like, so when I give blood, and you might have given blood, right? It does say, have you engaged in homosexual behavior? Why do they ask that question? Because they know that it's a problem
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of your health. So anyway,
Yes,
uh,
Khalid, we must finish
we
because
must,
I
because we
must
must
finish.
eat properly. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I
So,
must
all
be
right.
with the family.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Peace be
Jazakallah.
upon you. Assalamu alaikum. So while my uncle goes, let me just say thank you so much. He's gone to munch some more food. Thank you for watching. Please do join us next week. This show happens every week. Do ask your questions, even in the non-live comments. I check them out and I could put them as a question. You even answer them there. So other than that, please do like the videos to support the show, that so that more people see it. I don't personally need the likes myself. I just think that this is a way of participating to basically make the world a better place, slowly but surely. Thank you very much. Peace.